Anyways, yeah, so what I've been working on, I might as well talk about that, so I'm just not blabbing about it the whole time. As you saw, I did my HomeLab Services Tour. That's out there. It's doing really well. Lots of great questions. Lots of great ideas are coming from the comments. Some I'm even implementing now. and outside of that, working on my next video, it's one of the things I called out almost immediately in my HomeLab Services Tour video within the first 2 minutes. So that's what I'm working on. I'm really close to being done. I had to set it aside a little bit for this over here. You can kind of see it off in the distance. But I have my three one-use servers right there. I'm getting them, I'm prepping them for co-location. That is still happening. I talked to the people at the colo. They're like, yep, we're all good. I need to finalize some details. But I've been standardizing all of those servers, and I realize how little I've done of standardizing things in general. So I'm talking like, same firmware patches, same firmware settings, same hard drives, getting all the hard drive serial numbers, like all of the things that I can't just run down to the basement and pop it open and look at. I actually need to document them now. So I had to put on my big boy pants for these 3 servers. Anyways, getting them all prepared. I'll have something out in a little bit, not real soon, but in a little bit on what I'm doing with those servers. As I said, I'm moving some of them to a co-location, but I'll have everything, I guess, a little more solidified here in a couple of weeks. So I'm super excited about that. One thing I'm glad I did was actually test my SSDs. One of my SSDs is totally dead, and fortunately Samsung is sending a replacement, so that's pretty awesome there. That's what I always say, like I don't know, I don't want to get into like enterprise versus consumer gear, but things fail no matter what they are, and as long as you have a decent warranty on them, that company should replace them, and they are. So that's pretty awesome. It's getting pretty close to the end of the warranty, though. I think I had a 5-year warranty on them, and they're 4 years old, but still, I phoned it in, or not phoned it in, but opened a ticket, and next day they sent me labels, so that was pretty awesome. Anyways, so that's what I've been working on. I'm super excited for this next wave of stuff that I'm doing, and I got something coming out probably, I want to say Monday or Tuesday. We'll see. We'll see. I was just editing it right before this, and so that's where we're going. So anyways, if you have something you want to share, throw it in the chat. Let's talk about it. Let's start from the top, and I'll work my way down. I don't need to scroll that chat, but I need to scroll this chat. So let's see what you guys are working on. Yeah, me testing. Things are working. All right, things are working. Roger that. Got the chat working this week. I did, Alfie Truss. I did, man. I'm not going to touch anything. I totally want to zoom this in. I've changed my angle a little bit. Now I'm like a little bit too far away from there, so I'm going to be squinting extra lots. But yes, I did get the chat going. I did touch some stuff up. I found a whole bunch of other settings. I put a little note to remind myself of what not to delete next time. And I found some more settings that should make things a little bit easier. Nothing you'll notice, but things that will help me in the future if things that go wrong, like restore my settings, or like, hey, when I refresh this page, don't clear my chat, that type of stuff. But I got it going, man. Romeo Jr., how's it going? Hi, Tim and chat. How's it going? Check. Yeah, that was me checking. Thank you. Fixed the chat. Yes, I did. Oh, man, you guys remember. Oh, man, that's not good. But I did fix the chat. Things are going good, so. I won't go into it. There's a lot of customization options. It's still kind of missing one for me, but let's see. Sigor, taking down Christmas lights. All of the live stream seems to be scheduled around either putting up or taking down lights. LO. Yeah, it's because it's Saturday midday. It's a tough time. I'd love to mix in some more Fridays, mid-morning. But it's just not working out that way with my jobs. My jobs is plural, and other things. Friday ends up turning into either preparing for something or meeting on something. So, anyways, I haven't taken my Christmas lights down yet. My wife took down the Christmas tree. She's pretty good about that. Me personally, I would keep it up till March. But she's like, if it's like January 5th, she's like, we need to take the tree down. So we have the rest of the stuff up, just not the tree anymore. But personally, I would keep a tree up 24/7, 365 if it were me, just because I like lights. But hopefully you get it all taken care of. Lesser Train, woot, happy Saturday. Currently diving down some deep rabbit holes with my Cisco 3750 and pfSense VLANs. Yeah, that sounds like it could be really easy to go down some rabbit holes. So yeah, pfSense, obviously for your firewall, your gateway, or all the above. Probably every VLAN's configured there, and then you have a Cisco, I assume that's a switch, 3750, and you're configuring VLANs on it. Yeah, that's got to be tough. I took the easy way out and went with UiFi, so it's like I define them once and they just deploy everywhere. But I can imagine how that could be tough. I guess it's very, very similarly how I have to configure Proxmox VLANs and stuff like that. It can be a long and windy path, but lesser train. Hopefully you figure it out. I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Hey, DJ Mixman. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome, welcome. Sorry. Oh, yeah, a couple notes real quick. If I have to stop the stream kind of sort of on a weird note, it's because I have a repair person coming. They're going to come fix the boiler. It's making some weird noises. And they were like, yeah, we can come today between 11 and 11. I was like, okay, sounds good. Same day service, but 12-hour window. But they said they'll give me a quick heads up. Anyways, long story short, if I'm like, hey, gotta go, I kind of gotta go because repair person's coming to look at our boiler. And but yeah, anyways, doesn't even matter. I shouldn't even mention it because it doesn't matter unless they come. But I do need to keep my phone close just in case. Cadus, got a question for you. Exactly how are you routing WAN and LAN traffic for your different traffic instances? Like, what is the flow from internet to Kubernetes instance versus coming in from your LAN? Yeah, good question. Good question. So yeah, so I will just keep it simple. I have two traffic instances, both in the same cluster, right? And then I have two MetalLB instances, both in the same cluster. And so what does that give me? That gives me two different IP addresses that I can get into my cluster for HTTP traffic or whatever I want to do, right? And so one of those is public, and I call it external. And one of them is private, and I call it, they're both private IPs, but you know what I mean. And I call it internal. And so, my one that's public has all the port forwards from the WAN. So I have a port forwarding rule that says, hey, anything 443, go to this MetalLB IP. That's where the public internet comes in to my stuff. And then I have that other IP that's just LAN, and I address internal stuff through that IP address. And so what it looks like is public IP has, public DNS coming in, comes to my IP, gets port forwarded to that MetalLB IP, and then that forwards it to the services. And then for me personally, internally, I have internal DNS referring to those services that I want, and that internal DNS points to that internal MetalLB IP. Sorry if I'm super enunciating that stuff, but I need to make it super clear and helps me ensure I'm saying the right stuff. But yeah, that's how it works. Basically, two IPs. The public knows about one, doesn't know about my internal, and vice versa. My internal doesn't know about the public, and they only know about the internal. So that gives me two load balancers basically to proxy my traffic through either public or private. So hopefully that helps. If not, maybe I can diagram it really quick and like paint. in Discord. If you still have troubles or still need it documented like a 5-year-old with a crayon, I can definitely do that. Nothing too fancy. Hello. Hey, how's it going? What are you guys working on? Howdy, folks. So Cadus, converting my desktop to NixOS mainly. Yeah, I hear a lot about it. Don't know enough about it. I know it's a Linux version basically based on a package manager. I haven't done a ton of it, but it seems all the rage right now. It seems like people are liking it. So I got to try it out sometimes. Bill, I got my MinisForum BD770i installed today. Awesome little machine. Yeah, I bet it is. I bet it is. I think that's AMD. I think you were talking about that in Discord. Sounds awesome. I think I mentioned this in Discord too. I feel like I need one more mini PC somewhere in my home lab to do some tasks so I can move some of the stuff out of my StoreNator. So basically my StoreNator won't be doing virtualization anymore. I can move that onto a mini PC That's not my NUCs, because my NUCs are they're I wouldn't say they're filled to the gills, but you know, they're busy. They're busy, and adding what I want to add to them will make them too busy. So I kind of need one more machine, but that's awesome. I don't know much about that machine, but I know that most MinisForum stuff is pretty awesome. Like most mini PCs. Sure, you got decent amount of RAM, decent CPUs, decent cores, probably good networking, and it's all in a compact little box. So what's not to like? What's not to like? No. Oh, I got to get this one right. NoCU? That's what I'm going with. NoCU. Good day, all. Trying to set up a huge Wireguard mesh, or maybe meshes. It sounds complicated. Sounds awesome, though. Sounds awesome. So you want to connect disparate systems all through Wireguard, basically create a mesh of these securely connected devices. Sounds awesome. I'm going to have to be doing some of that stuff here in the future. Don't know if I'm using Wireguard, Tailscale, Cloudflare tunnels. Don't know what I'm using, but I'm going to have to do some of that too. So awesome. You should definitely share your learning somewhere, so I know what to do and what not to do. Good to have you. Bill, I also got my BliKVM V4 and their 4X HDMI switch in the rack. Excellent substitute for true IPMI. I totally agree. I mean, I haven't used BliKVM. That's the hardware piece, but it uses, I assume, PyKVM, the open source version that a lot of these other companies are making. A lot of them are based off of PyKVM, since it's an open source solution. And I agree, PyKVM in general, take the product out and just talk about the software is awesome. It is awesome. It is a great substitute for IPMI, and it's becoming more and more popular because I think people are using things like your mini PC you were just talking about, or all these other devices that don't necessarily have IPMI, or even if they do, it's some crusty old version that you have to install like some insecure version of Java for. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'm a huge fan. I'm still struggling with my TE Smart Switch, but yeah. Virtual Alex, how's it going? Howdy, Phantom Way, howdy, how's it going? Cadis, also doing anything for metric collection? I was for a while. I talked about this in my services tour that I just released. I was using, Grafana, Loki, Prometheus, like that whole stack, Grafana stack, basically, to collect metrics on all my pods, within Kubernetes, but just think of that like, all of my services, and even my nodes, which just think of that like servers. So I was using that stack. My current setup with my Intel NUCs, it was just a little bit too busy. So I decided that, you know what, I'm gonna take it out for now. And as I get this server stack going to my colo, bringing it back full scale, and then I'll probably do the same to my Intel NUC cluster because it'll be less busy. So basically, I'm shifting some workloads, some of my public stuff that I was doing internally at my home. I'm going to shift some of those workloads to these servers, these 3 servers here that will be in a colo. So I'm spreading out the workloads, and then I'll have more headroom on my Intel NUCs to be able to do some of that again, because I kind of miss it. I miss looking at pretty charts. But yeah, and even though I say it's pretty heavy, I mean, it's kind of heavy depending on how much you're doing. The alternatives are really heavy too. I mean, think of it like Elastic or anything like that, or APM, super heavy. Kibana, Elastic. If you're going to set up an Elk stack, I mean, that's heavy too. So Grafana is super light. I would say light compared to the alternatives, but I will say though, it's a little too heavy for what I have running in my cluster right now. I'm making excuses not to do logging and metrics. Like every product owner right now would be like hating on me right now. But I'm bringing it back. It's coming back. Undercurve TV, hello, how's it going? Takano, 37 months. Yeah, that's the one that we read out. I need to figure out how you're scoring all these deals. Cadis, modem, pfSense, firewall, Proxmox, Kates. Yeah, that's a good stack right there. Alfie Tross, how's it going? I upgraded my framework laptop, Going to use the old motherboard as a server to host a video game server. Pretty awesome. Going to probably just start out with a raw Docker, to get used to that before trying to stack Pterodactyl or anything more complicated on top. Yeah, I agree. That is awesome. I agree. So one, it's awesome that you're using, a framework laptop, upgraded the motherboard on it, and now you can use that motherboard for something else. Those words have never been spoken until now, unless it's the same motherboard or something like that. So really awesome. That's a good call out there that, hey, you're able to do that with the framework laptop. Pretty cool. Two, going with plain old Docker before going to Pterodactyl, I think is a good idea. Pterodactyl, if you don't know, it's a game hosting service, kind of an orchestrator, not so much, but basically a management console if you're running multiple game services. And I would say if you're going to run them at scale or have someone else manage them too. I think that if you're the one managing the game server, let's say it's Minecraft, if you're going to manage the game server, if you're the only mod that's going to connect to the admin console and do stuff, Docker by itself is great. Docker with Portainer is even better. But if you are going to get to a point where you're like, okay, I have multiple game servers spread across multiple machines, and I need someone else to become a mod or an admin of this game server, that's where Pterodactyl comes in. And some people jump to that right away, which is fine because, hey, I want a web GUI to do this stuff, and Portainer's not enough. I can't control some game variables. And so Pterodactyl is one that they just jump into, and so that's fine too. But I agree with that. Get it running in Docker, see how you like it. If you start to struggle or get the itch to take on, Pterodactyl, go for it. It's pretty awesome. Hey, real quick, Kev M92, Tier 1, 6 months. Thank you so much. Thanks for the continued support. Half year. How's it going, Kev? But awesome. That is awesome. So much to like in this this comment right here between framework, Docker, gaming server. Oh man, it has all the good stuff. What's the blur? What's the blur from the camera effects or effects? What the blur from camera or effects? It is real. It is legit. This is legit bokeh. It's legit bokeh. I have an ultra wide angle camera lens there, and I stop it down to we're at 2.0, so I get pretty good depth. But yeah, it's 100% real, 100% real focus. Let's see, Yocto, rearranging power in the racks. Rearranging power in the racks to better evenly distribute the new Eaton 6K VA UPS. Wow. I don't even know that model, but if I know what you're doing, it's definitely going to be, it's definitely enterprise ready. So Yocto runs YWS. Funny story. Someone on I joked about YWS in one of my streams that went to YouTube, obviously, and someone was like, how do I find this YWS? And figure out what services they provide. I was like, oh, that's so great. It's so great. Anyways, I joke because Yocto has a garage where he's running a data center basically for basically a colo for two of them. He's running two of them. And I joke all the time and call it YWS, and someone picked that up and thought it was real. Anyways, long story short, when he does stuff, he doesn't do it halfway. And so I don't know anything about a 6K VA UPS. I know that I have a 1500 VA UPS, which I think is pretty good, but 6K is 4 times that and probably some other stuff. So, man, pretty awesome. Maybe I should reconsider where I'm going to colo or where I'm going to locate my servers at. Sounds awesome, man. Be careful. Lift with your legs. As someone who just hurt their back 2 days ago, seriously hurt my back. I'm like in this weird spot where like I can't stand up straight and I can't take deep breaths. It's getting better. Lift with your legs. Let's see. Ro Mayo Jr. recently picked up a UiFi Express and 8-port switch. It's been keeping me busy this week configuring my main network in VLAN for my IoT devices. Your videos have been a huge help. Hey, no problem at all. Yeah, it's once you catch the VLAN bug, then you kind of go, whoa, like what have I been doing all this time? You know, but I will say, keep it simple. Keep it simple. You know, I think even just having 2 VLANs is 10x, not 10x, but maybe 10x more secure. But it's a lot more than people normally do. And I think segmenting your traffic, even just saying like, here's traffic I know about, here's traffic I have no idea what they're doing. Just segmenting those two, like your IoT VLAN and your May VLAN, I think is huge. That is huge. That is a huge task. I would say don't go too wide at first. I made the mistake of going super wide. I think I had 6 or 7, and I'm like, I'm not even using these other ones, and it was really hard to decide. I think as long as you keep having them over time, or thirds or whatever, or keep having the one that's segmented, I think you're good. You know, if you say things I trust, things I don't trust. Okay, what don't I trust about this other half, you know? And one of it might be IoT. Okay, this IoT, that's what you are. And then one day you might be like, well, I'm going to self-host some stuff, but it's in the IoT VLAN. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So have that, right? And then you split that in half, and that becomes IoT, and then your DMZ or your untrusted network for servers. And I say go that route. Just keep adding one over time. But it seems like you got it. I appreciate the shout out on my videos. And you got this. You got this. It's funny, a lot of people, I think once I released that video and just talked about my VLANs, people decided, oh, now might be the time to do it, according to the comments and according to, you know, my litmus test, which is really just comments and social media. I thought, well, I'm just like reviewing my stuff. Usually when I do tutorial about stuff, that's a good signal, and people are like, yeah, I'm gonna try this out. But I realized that, whoa, I'm just talking about this, and then people are doing it. So hopefully it helped. A boatload of Zhou, that's what I'm going. Sup. Undercurve TV, finally going to start on my Docker panel. I'm going to be using Express.js backend with EJS for front end because I just like HTML. Wow, so you're building, I assume, a Docker panel to control Docker. I assume very similar to what a Portainer would do, or this dockage thing that's coming out from Uptime Kuma, or the same developer. But pretty awesome. You'll have to ping me when you post it somewhere in public so I can see it at some point when it's at least running. But it sounds fun. So Express.js backend, very familiar with that. It's a way to run basically backends or APIs off of Node, which is based on Chrome's Chromium V8 engine, or just the engine. So you can use that as a server without basically using a browser. EJS, with EJS for the front end, I'm not familiar with EJS. This might be just like termination, I don't know, different vocabulary, but EJS, I'm trying to think, like, what does that stand for? I know ECMAScript. But anyways, sounds awesome. I won't dwell on what EJS is. There's a new JavaScript library every day. It's hard to keep up. No see you. Might be forced to change my username soon. Hey, no, don't change it at all. If that's you do you. Keep it. Just tell me how to pronounce it phonetically. That'll help. Because once I see it pronounced phonetically, I'll most likely remember it, at least for a stream or two. Takano also managed to score a thermal receipt printer and a mini point-of-sale computer. Awesome. POS computer, point-of-sale computer, or, you know, could be referred to, let's see, we need more context. Point-of-sale computer became a plasma cam controller for my old high school, and the receipt printer I'm turning into a website where you can submit messages and it prints out. It's working, but I don't want to release it just yet since I don't know how secure it is. Pretty cool. So, man, yeah, you're getting some old gear from your school, giving it some new life. I'm interested to see what you do with it. You've always got these interesting projects going on. It's like you get this thing and you get this idea. I don't know what comes first, the thing or the idea, or if it's at the same time, but I love it. You're always like in the mix with repurposed stuff. I love it, man. Joey Lockey. I'm currently looking for some hardware to run a local AI, a self-hosted AI. I found a GitHub, Muddler local AI that works with Home Assistant on consumer hardware. Yeah, I'm sure you know the requirements. Sounds fun. I know that local AI in general is it will beat up your GPUs. So if you're going to use GPUs, which I assume you are, or some other AI whatever chip on something, it definitely takes a lot of processing power. I think you start to realize like how much processing power it takes to run it. If you ever run anything local, it takes a lot, especially like a local chat GPT or something. It takes a lot. And then on top of that, if you think about like, whoa, like, you know, chat GPT, like the public version is doing this at scale for millions of people every day, all day long. Ooh, that's a lot of power. But sure, you figured it out. I'd love to know what you end up settling on. I'd love to know what you end up settling on, because it will crush your GPUs for sure. Fully local deals. Oh, awesome. Okay, I checked out the website and it's more expensive prices. All right, good tip. All right, fully local. I like it. I respect you a little bit more now that these are fully local deals, because you are out there. You are out there hustling. I like it. Just rummaging through what they have and then making do with it. I love it. I love it. Real quick, Sir Caffeine, Castor Ganile, I am Daddy, Karabik. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. No joker. What's the best way to lay out VDEVs for the HL15? 2 RAID 2Z, 7 disks, or 1 RAID Z 3 15 drives. Yeah, this has come up a couple of times. This has come up a couple of times in our Discord. It really depends on like what the access pattern is going to be for the data that you're running. I know that sounds super complicated, but it boils down to, are you running file servers? Are you running iSCSI? And are you going to be running VMs? Because those all have different access patterns. You know, read write's different, file size different, how often it reads and writes is different. It kind of boils down to that. For me personally, I made a decision a while ago that I'm going to do mirrored VDEVs all the time. Mirrored VDEVs. It's kind of like, for me, it's kind of like this jack of all trades that can do stuff pretty fast. Once you start to get into large files, I think very large files and stuff like that, I think they start to recommend RAID Z2s. But for me, I went mirrored VDEVs because I get the performance right. I get the performance read, increase for read. And then on top of that, I can expand my pool just by adding 2 more drives. And the disadvantage to that is that you'll lose 50% of your raw storage, because they're all mirrors. So you're doing mirrors and mirrors and mirrors in a pool. Anytime you need to expand, you have to expand by 2. Now that might look like a disadvantage, but if you look at the other solutions like RAID Z2, RAID Z3, your only option now is to expand by the total number of drives that you have in that pool. I think I'm getting all this right. I've been going crazy on TrueNAS like the last couple of weeks and redoing all of my storage. So anyways, I made a decision a while ago, even before I redid it, that I'm just going to do mirrored VDEVs. I'm okay with the 50% loss in raw capacity. I do get some performance gains. I then have an extra slot at the end because, hey, there's 15 drives. I can only do 14. That extra slot is going to be used for something or nothing. Could be a hot spare. I don't even want to do that. So I don't know yet. But that's a good CB pilot. Pool of mirrors rebuild from disk failures faster as well. That is true. You have a quicker rebuild. So anyways, I go mirrored VDEVs, so I go mirrored pools. And then it's just easy for me to figure out. I'm not a storage admin, so I'm not like really analyzing all of the access patterns and all the things that I'm running. Because if I look at it, it's a combination of everything. I run databases in there. I run iSCSI drives in there. I run boring file storage in there. Just typical NAS type storage stuff that gets accessed every now and then. But then when I edit a video, like I was doing right before the stream, it's like the most demanding thing ever for this NAS, because I'm editing, 2 or 3 4K videos all at once, and each of those 4K videos are 20 to 50 gigabytes. So, that's where I was like, okay, I'm not in it that deep. I'm not the greatest storage administrator. For me, like doing mirrored VDEVs makes a lot of sense, and I can wrap my head around it, and it gives me a lot of flexibility. long story short, I'm sorry that I didn't recommend either of the two that you have listed there. But if you ask in our storage channel in our Discord, there will be no shortage of opinions and no shortage of experience. And there are some people who might be able to answer better. Again, my opinion, there are so many ways to solve this problem. But for me, I went the most simple way in my head that I could figure it out. Because anything, I used to do RAID Z2, where I think 5 or 6 drives until I realized like, oh, this stinks. You know, I need to, in order to expand, I gotta buy, 6 more drives that are all bigger, and that's just not how I plan to grow my storage. I want to grow 2 drives at a time. So anyways, long story short, yeah, if that didn't solve it, ask in our storage channel. There's so many people that are so good with storage. Some of the people in here included that could answer that better and have a lot more use cases than I do. So yeah, awesome. Can you tell I've been working on TrueNAS a lot the last 3 weeks? I hope that helps, no joker. No see you. My M100 range outdoor, I was thinking in terms of like models whenever I see that. My 100-meter range outdoor Wi-Fi app agrees with you. I don't even exit my house like ever. Yeah, I agree. It's still fun though. I don't go outside all that often. I mean, I do during normal times. Not like now. It's like Snowmageddon and polar vortex for the most of the Midwest. Strangely enough, it's kind of okay in Minnesota. I mean, it's 4 degrees now, but that's nothing. And we got like a quarter of an inch of snow. That's nothing. South of us, they're just getting blasted. So it's kind of weird weather we're having. Alex, just gave up tinkering with NGINX Proxy Manager to get my domains pointing to internal stuff. It's tough. Once you do it once, once you figure it out once, I think you'll be able to figure out the pattern. But high level, to do internal stuff, you need to provision a certificate if you're going to use external. If you're using an external cert store, what I do is tack on a subdomain and use a wildcard. Is it the best thing ever? No. Is it easy and great and still secure? Pretty secure, pretty great, pretty easy. So I just add a local domain, and then, whenever you set up domain DNS records internally, only inside your network, you be sure that they resolve, that they're A record or CNAME, whatever you're using, that they resolve to the NGINX Proxy Manager IP. And so that's how I solve it. And then a quick way to check is NSLookup. NSLookup alex.local.example.com. Does that resolve to NGINX Proxy Manager? Yes, it does. Okay, cool. So anyone who requests it is now going to go there. And then hopefully NGINX Proxy Manager knows about that too. And it's set up and it says, hey, when I get this request, where am I going to forward that request? Oh, I'm going to forward it to Alex's homepage. That's on this IP address. And so that's kind of how it works high level. So I hope you figure it out, because once you get it once, then you're like, oh yeah, now what are we going to do? The college procrastinator, otherwise known as just the college student. How do I set up 3 node NUC Kubernetes cluster? Like specifically, did you create a virtual machine to become your nodes, or did you just host a control plane on 3 physical nodes and the worker nodes on virtual machines? Yeah, good question. So if you want to do 3, let's unpack this a little bit. First of all, did you use bare metal or did you use virtual machines? I use virtual machines because I think like there are infinite possibilities when you use a hypervisor on top of it. And, for me personally, the overhead that you pay is definitely worth the flexibility. So that out of the way, but that doesn't matter as much. That's just my preference. And you don't have to follow that. You could do bare metal if you want, but reverting, backing up, like all that stuff is infinitely easier once you run it into VM. So your next question is, okay, well, how did you get 3? What the heck are you doing? So if I run a 3-node cluster, what I typically do is not to self-promote, but I have an Ansible playbook that will configure, it'll bootstrap, it'll create a highly available Kubernetes cluster for you with however many machines you want. Personally, if I only had 3 nodes, which I do for 2 clusters, what I do is I just have all nodes in the cluster, so all servers, 1, 2, 3, run all roles. That means run etcd, run control plane, and run workloads. And that's the way I solve it. Is it best practice? No. Does it work? Sure. But if you're limited to 3 nodes, you really don't have too many options. The only option beyond that is to then bring in a 4th node where the first 3 are only doing control plane and etcd, and the last one is your worker only running your user workloads. But I've decided with 2 of my clusters that they're not as busy, and taking on those workloads isn't a big deal. Because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is you're trying to separate one latency. You want to get rid of latency, and so if your etcd nodes are busy doing something else, they're not busy doing etcd. But if that latency is within the tolerance, you're fine. And the other thing you're trying not to do is it's a security standpoint or separation of concerns. You don't want your user workloads running on the machines that are also running the state of your cluster and having access to etcd possibly. And so, because that would be bad. That would be bad if someone public got into your etcd and there's all your Kubernetes stuff and secrets and all that. At the end of the day, though, I made that choice where, hey, I have 2, I have 1 Rancher cluster. I did that because I'm not going to run 5 nodes to do this. Is it best practice? No. Does it work fine? Sure. And I did the same thing with my soon-to-be internal trusted cluster, which is already doing some stuff. So anyways, that's how I did it. If you need more info, ping me in Discord or post on our Kubernetes channel. I'll take a look. There's a lot of smart people in there too. Just Kaiser Solse. What part do you all right. Thanks for the help. What model SSD is getting warranted? Alphitrust. Samsung Evo 860. So I actually had two. I had my 1U servers off. I've had them off for months now. I think I shut them down in October. I think when I started to do my NUC cluster migration to test it out. So I shut them down. And I just powered them on for the first time 2 days ago as I'm standardizing these servers. Sorry, I'm not scratching my butt. I got an itch back there. Anyways, it's not my butt. It's just driving me crazy. So when I brought these back up, two of my Evo 860s just wouldn't boot. BIOS would recognize them. If I boot into Linux, into LSBLK, they aren't listed. So logically, it couldn't detect them. But on the physical layer in BIOS, it could detect them. Long story short, they're Evo 860s. I tried them in Windows. I tried them on Linux. I tried them on multiple machines. They wouldn't boot, took adapters off, did the whole 9 yards because I wanted them to work. I don't want them to be dead because that delays this project. And they were dead. And then I filled out a form on Samsung's website and they were like, cool, here's some return labels. It's like the easiest thing ever to do. The hardest thing is trying to figure out where you fill out the support request. And the mistake I've made twice now is trying to call them first because I'm like, do I really want to go back and forth through email? But it's all automated. It's all automated now to where a human, I think, actually clicks approve and they're just like, here's your label. So anyways, and for me personally, I always buy Samsung. If you see anything in my videos that's not Samsung, it's usually because it's either a great deal, less likely, or it's some hardware that came with something else. I'm a huge fan. Pretty loyal. They don't pay me. They don't sponsor me. I wish I had a relationship with Samsung because I buy enough from them. But when it comes to SSDs or flash drives, I always go Samsung because they're just they're so fast usually, and they're so dependable. And there's never any performance left on the table with any of them. And outside of drives here and there dying. No real problems. And I probably had, 50 or 60 SSDs from Samsung over the years. I mean, I got a stack of old 500 gig ones right there. It's like, what do you do with 500 gig ones when you upgrade to 1 terabyte ones? And the same will happen. Well, same might happen to my 1 terabyte ones if I ever go to 2 terabytes. But, and then when I have servers that take 4 of them at a time, and I have 3 servers, there's 12 right there. And I've upgraded those twice. So anyways, long story short, I usually choose Samsung. I've had some die in the past, but I've had all kinds of hard drives die in the past though too. So, oh my gosh. Oh, I don't know what's, I'm going to go with this because I think my stuff got cut off. Hey, Tim, any recommendation on segmenting VLANs at home network? Yes. Fill me up. Yes. If you want to see how I segment them, go look at my server tour, my HomeLab Services Tour that I just released like a week and a half ago. I go in depth on that. I talk about every VLAN that I have at home. And even if 75% of it doesn't apply, there's most likely going to be at least a 25. I'm making up this math, but there's going to be a 25% that does apply to you because you most likely have IoT devices or devices on your network that are managed by other people that you don't want them spying on your traffic. Not that they still could, even though most of that's going to be over TLS or whatever. You don't want those devices knowing that your other devices exist. And the way that you do that is you segment that traffic. That's how you segment. You got to do dual karate chops at the same time. and then create firewall rules and all that. So yeah, I do. Absolutely do. Absolutely. I like I said earlier, I kind of went overboard. Nerpiest. Haven't seen that name in a while. Hi all. Not many changes in my home lab, but studying for my A+ cert exam at the end of the month. Hey, Nerpiest, congrats ahead of time because I think you'll get it. And good luck on studying. Stay focused and do flashcards. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up, kind of, sort of, from what I remember from studying anything. But I think randomly, yeah. Just or take lots of like the test quizzes too. Take lots of test quizzes. Need to make sure I'm not going over time and the repair person's not here. Howdy, Dorky. I like it, Dorky. Howdy from South Africa. How's it going? I'm starting my smart home. Which switch is best to protect my network? Oh, this is a tough one. So you're starting your smart home and you want to know which switch is best. I will say, like, I don't mean to be pedantic or anything like that. Like switches are going to do your routing or your layer 2 or layer 3 routing, however you look at it. What you're really going to be interested in is your firewall. And I use that loosely, but your router or something that controls your ACLs, your access control list, because technically I don't think they're individual firewalls. Anyways, I'm getting too much into this. It depends. You want to have a system that is flexible enough for you to scale out your VLANs or your ACLs or whatever you want to do to segment that traffic. Not only your stuff internally to keep your inside safe, but also your firewall to keep your outside from coming in safe too. So this one's tough. I mean, pfSense is an easy choice for me to say just because community loves it. It's open source. You can test it out today and you can evaluate it today without buying anything. And I mean, you don't need to buy anything if you really want to evaluate it. Run it on a virtual machine, even in VirtualBox on the machine you're on, unless it's a mobile device, and you can evaluate it today. Set up a little test network in your home lab, see if you like it. If you like it, buy some bigger boy hardware or buy some hardware, dedicate it as your firewall, and then configure your network from there. So it's really going to be up to you. It's going to be a balance of configuration and complexity and simplicity and keeping you safe. I don't know. Those are good balances, but somewhere you're gonna have to create a Venn diagram of things you care about, see where they intersect, and see if there are trade-offs. Because it's tough, to objectively say what the best firewall out there is. I'm sure you'll get a lot of answers if you ask. But that is a great question for our Discord channel. Probably. The networking one, because again, there are a lot of pros in our Discord server with a lot of experience and a lot of opinions. So somewhere in there, the Venn diagram. This is my Venn diagram. It's gotta be in there. It's somewhere in there of all the things you care about and that it can do and that you want. Man, I'm getting pretty good at answering questions without answering them. No, but that's a huge one. And again, it's what you care about, the complexity you want to take on, how much you want to take on. But at the end of the day, I mean, then you need to back what you want to do with hardware and systems that can do it. And that's where I think it's going to be, this is what you're looking for. So you have to define what you want to do, see if the stuff out there can do it, most likely yes, and then you got to implement it, right? And that's where I think you could get some help in our Discord too, even on upfront on making that decision. Cadis, are Traefik instances exactly the same thing with the configs? Yes, they are, with the exception of name and the metal LB IP address that they use. I think I have examples of that on GitHub in my Launchpad repo, but yes, exact same configuration, except for the name that they use, the ingress class name, I think, if you're doing it in Kubernetes, and then on top of that, which metal LB IP address they use. Other than that, exactly the same. So it's definitely a duplication, but for me, it was a lot easier doing that than creating a ton of, rules, allow lists and block lists, and saying, yeah, allow all of these IPs into my network from internal, along with these that are public. And so I wanted to separate my concerns to say, okay, I have two concerns: how people access my cluster in the network and how people access my cluster out of the network. And I can keep those separate and not accidentally do the wrong thing. So that was my way of saying, hey, I'm, separate my concerns. Real quick, I think I just saw like Randoneering. Hi, how's it going, man? Fruit flies, don't bother me. Randoneering, T1. Tier 1. Thanks, dude. I appreciate it. Man, 13 months. Let's go, dude. 1 year, 1 month. Just stopping in while family is over. Happy 13 months. Thank you, man. I'm working on it. New Power Edge R430, updating the Supermicro 826 server and tidying up the server rack with new equipment. What's our target brand seltzer stream? Yeah, sir. You know it. We've been talking about this a lot in Discord. My go-to. This is my go-to. Sparkling water, seltzer water. It's my go-to. You're probably like, what the heck brand is that? Good & Gather is an internal Target brand, and I love it. This is cherry cola flavor, sparkling water, so just a hint of cherry, a hint of cola, and just a hint of 35 milligrams of caffeine. I don't know if that's a hint or not, but it's enough to perk me up and lift me up. So yeah, this is my go-to. I don't drink it all day long. I have 1 or 2 of these a day. But then my other ones lately, I'll talk about this in Discord, but I'll drop this. Lately, I found one that's called, it's by the Polar brand, and it is apple lemon, and it's surprisingly good. I don't know. I've just been like, I can't get enough of it. So I'll share it. I picked up 3 flavors this weekend, all 3 that I really love, and they had all 3 in stock, and I'm like, sweet. I'll share it in Discord in random. But thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks. Fellow sparkling water connoisseur. I think everyone is lately. But Liquor Boy took me a minute to figure that out. But Liquor Boy, hey, I was like, Baliloquy? What is this? But Liquor Boy, thanks for the follow. Vagabond, thanks for the follow. Shroom Doom, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. CBP Pilot, thanks for the new tier 1. And then 6 months, so I assume something was messed up. Dude, thanks for the continued support. 6 months, CBP Pilot. I appreciate it. All right, I still got time. And I apologize if I skipped. My backlog is getting chopped. I need to speed up. I'm curious if you ever done any security camera stuff. Oh yeah, I have. I'm trying to figure out Frigate Docker, and the YAML is killing me. It would be awesome video, I think. Hey, too legit to quit. I like it. Too legit to quit. I have done some stuff, so I've done stuff from Blue Iris. I have played with Frigate a little bit, and I obviously do Unify Protect. YAML will get you. YAML's been my life for this next video. There's a lot of YAML involved, and while it stinks when things go wrong, it's great when things go right. As if something was wrong with JSON, the most perfect object notation language. Like, why do we even need YAML? I'm kidding, because JSON has its own problems. Anyways, long story short, maybe sometime. I do a ton of camera stuff. I have stuff on scripted too, which you might end up bringing in at some point. Toss it in our Discord. We have if it's a container, you can throw it in there. If it's truly a container issue, but we also have an AV one and a security one. We have lots of channels to choose from. I think moral of the story is if you're having some problems, a lot of people are running Frigate in our Discord community. I personally haven't run it for any more than just demoing it to see what it was. It was an early day when I was exploring different systems. Frigate is definitely, I think, the way to go if you're going to do self-hosted home security. So anyways, I hope that helps. Scotch. Hey, Tim. I'm making progress building out my whole home lab from bare metal to fully provisioned home lab with Ansible. Scotch, that is awesome. That is awesome. I would love to be able to do that. I'll be honest with you. Configuring these 3 machines and just making sure all of their settings are exactly the same, albeit they're running Proxmox, is kind of a pain in the butt. Do I go from bare metal to Proxmox often? No. But I feel like the time that I put in configuring and making sure that everything's right, not to mention a stinking spreadsheet I had to break out to make sure I'm doing the right things, probably would have paid off better if I would have invested that into Ansible to configure these machines. And then I would have picked up, hey, bare metal Ansible stuff for these machines and not put so much time into the administration of making sure that the configuration's the same. Anyways, long story short, that's awesome. Y'all, if you could post it somewhere publicly, I'd love to take a look. Thank you. Virtual Alex, any thoughts on the new Rabbit R1? Dude, I don't even know what the Rabbit R1 is. I feel like I'm missing out. I got FOMO right now on whatever the Rabbit R1 is. I don't know what it is, Virtual Alex, but I am definitely going to Google that here shortly after. Pira Franchi. The best way to manage containers on a home server is using Portainer. Just take the question mark off of there and you have the answer. Make that a statement instead of a question. So yes, if you're using Docker, I'll say if you're using Docker, I honestly think that Portainer is the best way to go. Absolutely, it's the best way to go. If you're going beyond, into Kubernetesville, that's debatable what you use. But I would say yes. If you're doing a single host with Docker only, absolutely. It's the way I go. So take that question mark off. Make it a statement. You have the answer. Xcage, hey Techno Tim, a year ago I asked you a question about, oh man, here we go. My first Linux experience using Unraid. You said, do what, oh, that does sound like me. You said, do what you have fun with. Now I'm at the point of wanting to deploy my stacks in Kubernetes, but it looks intimidating. Any advice? Oh man, yeah. Yeah, I think I'll need a sip for this. So yes, so first of all, awesome. It sounds like from this, there's a couple things to break down here. First of all, you were thinking about doing something with Unraid. It sounds like you've done stuff with Unraid, and now you're growing or you're branching out. So awesome, huge. That's huge feather in your cap to say, hey, at one point I didn't even know how to run containers, and now I'm looking into new ways of running containers. So pretty awesome. Congrats to you. Next is the elephant in the room all the time with my stuff is Kubernetes. I will say that well, one, there's never any reason to run anything, right? I mean, if you want to run your stuff and it runs great, then keep it that way. Keep it that way. At the end of the day, if what you want to do is run services and you want them to be stable, less tinkering, yeah, absolutely. Stay that way and have them be stable. But, some people think that sometimes hey, maybe Kubernetes is the next evolution. Because for a long time, it was okay, I was using virtual machines. Containers are the next evolution. I evolved to containers on Docker, and now I want to evolve somewhere else. And a lot of people think that that's Kubernetes. It's just a logical progression. And I wouldn't say, or linear progression. I wouldn't say that's linear. That's kind of I don't even know. You're fractioning it off. You're drawing a dotted line, and that's optional, I would say. Because at the end of the day, Kubernetes is going to help you run services. It's going to help you scale services if you need it and do a whole bunch of other stuff for you too, right? And so unless you really want to learn Kubernetes and you have something running, I would say, unless you really want to run Kubernetes, I would say, it's totally fine if you stick to what you have. Otherwise you're just tearing down your whole thing and building something else. I will say though, that Kubernetes is a great skill to learn. I will say that once you start learning about Kubernetes, and you learn, how to scale workloads, how to make stateless workloads, how to manage workloads within Kubernetes, building load balancers, dealing with storage, like all of this cloud native stuff. Then you start to realize how cool it is and how big it is. That's the key difference too. Is that Kubernetes is meant to be cloud native. What does that mean? Well, it's basically meant to be born in the cloud. Obviously, with K3s and local Kubernetes that you host yourself, there are ways around it. But at the end of the day, it's supposed to be run in a cloud where you may not, or you don't usually have access to the host or to all these other things, like all these other safety nets that you have in your own environment, right? Like, I can SSH into the host. I can, increase drive space on the host. Like, at some point with Kubernetes, you stop worrying about that so much. Anyways, I'm going on a tangent about Kubernetes in general. You're talking about running at home, so a lot of that doesn't apply. But I will say, like, if you wanna see how to run things highly available, Kubernetes can help you do that. It won't solve the problem of, hey, my containers. So let me backtrack a little bit. A lot of containers that we run in our home lab don't have like a concept of really running multiple versions of that container or multiple instances of that container. A lot of home lab stuff that we run, it's meant to run on a single Docker instance, run by itself, have its own local state, and can't be scaled beyond one. Most of them are like that. Most of the ones you see. You think of, Pi-hole, you think of, you name your container. Pi-hole, Plex, Jellyfin, all these containers are built like almost like a monolith. And the fact that one container has everything it needs, as long as you run it and you run one of them, it's going to be fine. Don't need to worry about databases, don't need to worry about storage, don't need to worry about all this other stuff. But at the same time, you can't scale that beyond one, because then you get this weird split brain scenario where this one thinks that, like, hey, I have a state, and this one thinks that I have a state, and so you can never scale beyond one. Long story short, a lot of things that we host can't scale beyond one. So it's like, okay, then what's the point of Kubernetes? Well, there's still a lot of other stuff there, like being able to transition that container that maybe died, even though it's at one, to another node if something goes wrong, or you name it. Anyways, I don't know if I'm making any sense. I guess my takeaway is that, like, Kubernetes is kind of intimidating. I think it's a good skill to pick up, but I wouldn't say it's the next linear, or logical progression in containers, unless that's what you want to do. That might be the cheap way of saying, like, hey, it's not for everyone, and that's fine. It's not for everyone. Like, some people at the end of the day don't want to manage Kubernetes. That's not their goal in life, is to manage a Kubernetes cluster. The goal in life is to run some of those services that are running on there. Or if you're, a web dev, you just want a developer environment. You don't care about anything else. You just want to have some place you can deploy code to, or anything, you name it. So anyways, it depends on what you care about. Me personally, I like running Kubernetes because I manage some Kubernetes cluster outside of YouTube, and it's fun, and it keeps me learning. It keeps me abreast of all the stuff going on, and it's a really hot skill, I think, to have. Is because, like, a lot of Kubernetes you learn on the job. If you can learn it outside of the job, I think that's good, and I think a potential employer will see that as really good too. So. But I do it because I love it. I do it because it's fun. Do I need to run, a 5-node cluster at home? No, heck no, I don't. But I do it because I enjoy it. And so if you enjoy, running containers, and you like Unraid, and it's super stable, and you've tweaked it, and you have cache drives, and you got 10 gig working, and it's working great, maybe build a test cluster to play around with, rather than just think, I'm migrating everything there. Because it's your home lab, right? And so if it's your home lab and you got some additional compute, spin up some virtual machines, I built a playbook that does it for you. You can experiment with it. And in my playbook video, and even in my documentation, I show you how to deploy a stateless workload like NGINX to it, and scale it to multiple, and take one down, and pass it around and have it get destroyed and what have you. So anyways, yeah, charcoal Kubernetes burned me out. My lab has been powered out for a while. Gotta go back to Docker. Yeah, that can happen. That can happen. That is a real thing. That is a real thing. That can happen. I don't know why I don't see your I don't know why I don't see your message where I can highlight it, but that is a real thing. Like, I think HomeLab in general, you can burn out on anything. Like, I for a while I was getting burned out on TrueNAS. I was like, do I really care this much about like these micro stutters and everything that's going on when I edit video? I think it can happen. I think it can happen really fast with Kubernetes too, because Kubernetes is like running with sharp scissors, right? You're running with sharp scissors all the time. And if you accidentally trip or bump into something or do something wrong, a lot can go wrong really fast. And a lot of it's not obvious either. So you have this whole orchestration framework to do all these awesome things. And a lot of it's hidden behind CLI commands that you might not understand too, or UIs you don't understand, or some cloud supplied UI that you don't understand. And so it gets really tough really quick. And if you layer on top of that, like, hey, I'm going to build my own Kubernetes and host it. Like, no company is doing that. I mean, unless you're in the industry, most people are using cloud provided Kubernetes to do their stuff. So they've taken that whole management layer out and said, there's no way I'm going to self-host Kubernetes. I'm going to run GKE, or I'm going to run AKS or AWS or AKS, Azure Kubernetes Server, and EKS. You know, they're like, no way would I ever install K3S on virtual machines and manage those virtual machines. And so like we're in this weird, very complex scenario where we're trying to run Kubernetes on our own hardware and maintain it, and on top of that, deploy services to it. So I think, which is, I think, a huge feather in your cap, maybe like a peacock feather, at least a peacock feather in your cap, because most companies aren't even doing that. And I'm not trying to downplay what companies are doing, but most of them are renting Kubernetes service. You know, they're renting it, you know, AKS, GKE, EKS. I forget all the acronyms. Basically renting a Kubernetes service, right? And so, you know, this goes into, it goes into a lot of stuff. But anyways, so it is easy to get burnt out. There are a lot of things that can go wrong. And, maybe if you want to learn Kubernetes, maybe just getting something in the cloud real quick for free could be a win too, just to test it out to see what it is. But I think running at home is pretty fun. But that's because I've had some experience. Anyways, I'm rambling. I don't want to take that lightly. Burnout in general is everywhere with everything you do. I think there's a short fuse too on Kubernetes and how quickly you can get burned out. Because like I said, sharp scissors, there's a lot that can go wrong. And you're in kind of uncharted territory when you start running K3S at home. You know, not a lot out there. I mean, you have communities like this, you got Kate's at home or home ops, and you got like a handful of people that are doing it at home. But it's not like, hey, I have this problem in GKE and I can Google it and figure it out. You know, it's not that prevalent. So, which means, you know, a lot of dead ends when you're looking for stuff. But you know, another challenge with Kubernetes, it's even knowing where to look. So anyways, hey, y'all, I went a little bit over. It's 4:20. Ah, right. Perfect. It's 4:20, at least my time. Man, thank you all for turning out, for showing up. Lots of conversations. I do apologize if I didn't get to the end of the list. I realize that I'm getting really bad at answering all questions, or I focus on one for too long. So I do apologize. I need to set like an internal timer and just say, hey, I'm gonna spend 60 seconds on them. Anyways, TBD. I'll figure that out. If you do have something you want answered, I do apologize if I didn't answer it. You can absolutely post in Discord. And if you need me to answer it, I will absolutely answer it to the best of my ability, because I don't want to sell you short. And if you don't want to use Discord, totally fine too. Ping me somewhere. Mastodon, Twitter, smoke signals. Ping me somewhere other than in chat, and I will definitely try to get back to you. I think I'm pretty good about that. I mentioned Discord a ton during this. This stream probably wouldn't even happen unless a lot of people from Discord were also in there, or vice versa. Our Discord probably wouldn't happen unless a lot of people from the stream came there. So I invite you to join. Super low ping, super laid back. Everyone's really nice, really knowledgeable. We have channels on almost every topic you can imagine. And if you think something doesn't fit, throw it in random. And if it happens enough, we'll create one for it. But anyways, I encourage you to join. You can use !Discord for it, or just Google, hey, Techno Tim Discord. It's discord.gg/Techno Tim, and you could get there. If you have anything else you want to ping me on, ping me. I'll be there here in a little bit. I will have something out, like I said, probably Monday. I'm going to be working on it probably shortly after this into tonight, maybe tomorrow, and I'll have something out for you Monday. If not, it'll be Tuesday, but I think Mondays is definitely doable. So something coming out for you here shortly. Thank you so much. There were follows, there were subs, there were resubs. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And yeah, if you have anything else, ping me. I'll be in Discord. Have a great Saturday. Take care and be good to each other. Take care, folks.